Hello again, welcome back everyone. LiquorHound here with you, and thank you for joining me once again for another spirit review video. Today we're going to be taking a look at three Japanese whiskeys that really made an impression on me this year. I happened to be at Whiskey on the Rocks event in Las Vegas, a big whiskey show, which if you ever can get a chance to go to that, you should go to that. It's very, very solid. But Total Wine puts that on, and when I was there, I'm walking around, I'm tasting different things, seeing different things, and I just happened to see the Shibui little stand there. Go over there, talk to them, taste their spirit, and I'm immediately blown away. So much so that I ran out and bought these. Okay. Now they were gracious enough to donate this 18 that they had left. So that's how come that bottle took such a hit. But these other two, these are my self purchases. Now, I got to taste the line, and I really enjoyed this profile. And what I mean by this profile is half of their line is done at a different distillery. It's the Niigata Distillery. And that line is column distillates, pot distillates, some of it's malt, some of it's wheat. And those are the ones that you're going to see on the lower price range, you know, the $60, $50 bottles up to 100, up to the 10-year-old. They have a 10-year-old pure malt that's on that side of the Niigata range. And that one is $150 for the 10-year-old pure malt. And that one's really good. It's won a lot of awards. I really like that one. But there's something about, well, I know what it is. It's the koji mold that is inoculated on the rice in this style, okay, from this other Okinawa distillery, which is, again, the Masahiro distillery. That that inoculation of that koji mold, which is kind of the same thing they'll do on like sake. I think they do it on like soy sauces and miso and stuff like that. But it's that koji that makes the difference. This black koji, and it used to be a natural occurrence. Apparently, there in Japan, where just the distilleries would have it growing on the walls, and it would naturally inoculate the grains and stuff like that. But now, you know, after World War II, they lost a lot of those distilleries, so they had to rebuild, and now they've been doing this for a long time, and they were able to save some of that, and they kept it going. And so when you taste it, it's always known for having a mushroom, earthy flavor to it. That's from the koji. And so that's one thing that is in this whole line that blew me away, because the first sip of the 10-year-old white oak, I was just like, oh, this reminds me of the ransu of very, very old Armagnacs or Calvados, when it gets that huge mushroom flavor, that big, earthy, damp cellar thing. And I was in love with it. And so, again, picked up the white oak, picked up the 15, and we're going to taste the 18. But here we go, 43%. Retail pricing on this bottle of the White Oak 10 is $150. I'm going to do my best to give you descriptors. They do have some descriptors on the back. Like here it says tropical fruits, whipped cream, and sea salt caramel. But it's a complex nose. Now here we go. See, to me, the first thing I would go with is a combination of like butterscotch and mushrooms. Butterscotch and mushrooms. Doesn't sound like they go together, but that's the first thing I knows. There is some citrus pop tropicalness in the background here. You get out to the edge of the glass, some plums in there. Man, on the very edge, there's even a little bit of like, it hints at strawberry, which is crazy. But that's at the very edge of the glass. But once you're in it, no, it's not strawberry. There, it's more like, again, the plumminess, damp soil, mushroom, butterscotch. Maybe a little, again, that citrus orange is in there. But let's taste it. 43%. Medium high viscosity. At 10 years old, the flavor is ridiculous at 43%. You'll very rarely drink a 43% whiskey that has this much flavor. Mm. Oh, yeah, the butterscotch is in there. Vanilla cream. They think they talk about whipped cream. Yeah, I can see that. Vanilla cream. It's almost like a vanilla cream, buttered, that butter icing that they do. Kind of reminds me of those two things. The mushroom is in there and it works really well, believe it or not, with that sweetness kind of feel to that creaminess. A little bit of that, again, plum, little orange in there. Again, citrus oil, orange oil. Yeah, it's a lot of that vanilla cream. And it's just like that. It's not super complex. I mean, it does very pronounced, and it's big and it's full. The grain, the rice doesn't really taste like malt. You know, it doesn't taste. The closest thing I would say to that is going to be like an oatmeal flavor to that rice. But if you've ever had like a rice cereal, that type thing, kind of has that flavor, but it's a little deeper and denser. And I think it has to do with that black koji mold inoculation. And on the back end, it's just super fragrant. Like even now, when I'm sitting here just breathing and taking it in, it's just loads of flavor. Very viscous, silky, creamy malt. It reminds me of, again, old brandy, where you get those old plums, those kind of dates, and then you get this really heavy, bookish character that's long and lingering, lightly nutty, like an almost like an Oloroso sherry. There's no sherry in this one. Nope, this is all virgin European white oak. But there's almost that light nuttiness like you would pick up in an Oloroso in here. Beautiful, beautiful whiskey. Whew, $150. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, it feels like a steal. Now, the sad thing about this style, apparently this style had been around for a very, very long time, and it was sold like pretty unaged to like young whiskey. Um, and they were, I guess it was, people were drinking it a lot, but then it kind of fell out of favor. So I think because of that, I think they're able to age up now. But yeah, as soon as people find out about this, we may not see too much of this around anymore either. All right, so this one is the 15-year-old sherry cask, 86 proof, ex-fino, manzanilla, first fill sherry oak. For the tasting notes, they say milk chocolate, caramel, macadamia nut. Let's see. It's kind of Christmassy in a glass. There's more pronounced plums here. There's more fig here. That still buttery icing, that buttered icing is in here. Brown sugar, kind of molasses feel to the nose. I still pick up that kind of that mushroom, bookish character, but it's a little more hidden here. This one reminds me of a really big sherried malt, almost like a Kavalan sherry. When they first came out, they were dark and dense. Kind of reminds me of that, but with a rancio from an old brandy as well. Let's taste it. Wow. More complex than this, but it still has that kind of, there's a huge signature profile from that koji rice that runs through it. And it's got that vanilla cream thing. It's got the mushroom, that damp old oak cask in a cellar type situation going on. But here you got this really beautiful sherry essence to it. Adding a lot more of those kind of like, again, plum, fig. It's got a little bit of that orange oil kicking in there. A little golden raisin as well. But you get this almost like Christmas spice in there as well. Nutmeg, clove, a little bit of baking cinnamon, just a touch. I mean, none of these come off like, the cinnamon's not rising up on the mid palate. You do get a lot of rise of flavor, but they don't get super wild. Like, they hit you and they kind of swell a little bit, and they kind of recede a little bit, but they don't like spike out in any crazy direction. They're not twisting and getting crazy nuances in the transitions. That's not happening. But that said, in something like this, you don't really need that to happen. This is great from the beginning. Super long finishes. I mean, after that sip, and I'm still, all that flavor is still there. All right. Oof, oof. All right, to the 18. Now, this one's the one that's dropped to 40%. I don't know if that's because it's losing proof in cask or they just made that choice. But they did say ex-fino manzanilla sherry oak in this one. They talk about tasty notes of red cherry, black licorice, and chocolate. Oof. All right. This one almost feels like, I don't know, it kind of has a little more ex-bourbon profile to it, even though it talks about maturation as ex-fino and manzanilla. But the purity of the spirit here isn't as covered up as it was here as far as the sherry. But this one was ex-fino and first fill sherry. That's what it is, the first fill sherry here. So it still has the ex-fino and manzanilla, but the first fill was giving this more of that dark date and fig type thing, kind of covering up a little bit of that purity of it. And this one is back to kind of more what this is, but with more elegance. This one almost, you could almost get into where baked apples, baked pears, and then you get into the fig and the date. A little bit of that butterscotch, that buttered icing thing, that mushroom, that old Armagnac character is what it smells like. But if you're used to old Scotch whiskeys, I think the 18 is going to be the most similar. Like you'll connect with this one very very easily. And this is going to be way different. I just tasted a brand new the Glenmorangie 18, right? And that one is the one with all the flowers on it now. It's a shadow of what it even used to be because it used to be when they used to come in the little tin cans for like $75. I mean, those are really really good. But this at 18, it's going to remind you of much older whiskey than that. This is going to remind you of something, those green bottle Caden heads that were like, actually, I shouldn't say Caden heads. I should say those old green bottle, old malt casks when you're talking about 30-year-old whiskeys. That's what this nose is kind of like. Let's go ahead and taste it. Oh, my goodness. Boom. Wow. Medium high viscosity. That light, how do you describe this one? It's got the apple pear thing, but very baked and it's subtle early on. You get that orange peel oil in there as well, balanced in there. That vanilla cream, that butterscotch, little butterscotch. I mean, think talked about salted caramel. I could kind of see that in this one. Oh, and then you get that again, even brooding like mushroom, damp cellar flavor. That is by far the most elegant of the three. Yeah, this one is $320. This one is about $220. So extra $100 jump. And this one is about 150, about a $70 jump. If you have the money, $300, and you want something that's super unique, and this is going to knock, I'm going to say it right here, I would much rather drink this than Yamazaki 12s or the Hibiki, you know, some of the Hibikis that I've got here and all those Nikas. I like this better. Yeah, that's crazy because a lot of those are fetching ridiculous prices, but this one is phenomenal at the 18. Again, you just need to make sure you're ready for that mushroom and that earthiness, that damp cellar. If you're okay with that profile, if that sounds like, you know what, I like a little Ben Nevis, I like a little some little funk in the whiskey. I don't mind that. I think you're gonna be okay here. And if you want to just find out for sure, buy the 10-year-old white oak. The 10-year-old bourbon oak. They do a bourbon oak. I can't remember if that was Okinawa or not. I'll put up here if it was or wasn't. But I know the 10-year-old pure malt is from the Niigata distillery. That's different. So I am only speaking for these. The Okinawa, that was the Masahiro distillery. Phenomenal, phenomenal whiskeys. So if you're out there and you feel like spending a little something extra, you want a flavor bomb, again, a little funky, but I love it. Hope you do as well. Uh, Check these out. But until next time, if you're able to help keep this channel going, please consider joining us over at patreon.com/liquorhound. That's the only way I'm able to self-purchase these bottles. Of course, I was given this one by them because I happened to be at the same event as they were. So I greatly appreciate their giving me that. But to be honest, this plays zero influence on what I thought about these, because if I didn't like it, I wouldn't have bought these. And to be honest, I'm going to buy another one of these, so it doesn't even matter. But I hope you enjoyed this video review. Please join me over at patreon.com/liquorhound. If you can, you're going to get these videos 2 weeks early. You're going to get them ad-free. You're going to get a whole private review library and a lot of Patreon-only bonus content where I think on the last video I gave everybody a 4-week head start on a lot of my favorites of 2023, a lot of insider information. But again, join us over there and you'll get all that kind of stuff. But if you can't, you can only join me here on YouTube. Greatly appreciating each and every one of you. Keep leaving all those great comments. I'll get to them just as soon as I can. Everyone have a great day, and cheers.